Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. This is the penultimate meeting of this council, and I almost made it through as deputy chair without having to chair a meeting. Marcus is not feeling well, and out of caution, I think he lost his voice, which would be interesting to see, but Karen called me about lunchtime today and asked if I'd chair the meeting, and fortunately it's probably the shortest agenda that we've had in this term, so hopefully we can get through it without too many flaws. So as I said, the meeting is called to order. Any concerns with the adoption of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Forbes, the agenda be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? Carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Not seeing any. Minutes, any errors and omissions in the minutes? Moved by Forbes, seconded by Gregg, that the minutes from the October 5th, 2022 council meeting be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. No public comments, no public meetings, no delegations, and most of the department heads got the night off, so we will move on to page 2, 8.6, report from the head of corporate services regarding 21st line. So, Karen, anything you would like to add to the report?
I will just note that since drafting the report, we did receive an offer, as noted in my report, from A-Rock and the Wallace family. So the resolution could be for council to direct staff to go into direct negotiations with the neighboring properties, and then we would bring something back to an upcoming council meeting with figures.
Okay. Any questions for Karen? Steve?
Who did you say, A-Rock? Because I had an email from a resident said he put in a bid too, but it would have been under a personal name.
So I think that was probably for the Argyle Street.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
this is 21st line. That's okay.
Okay, my mistake.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. Any other, Karen or Katie?
Just to confirm, the two interested parties that you're speaking of that are putting forward an offer are property owners on abutting lands of the 21st line Unopened road.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Motion here is moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Forbes. The council received report 2022-169 regarding 21st line unopened road closing and sale, and that council authorized township staff to proceed with direct negotiations with the neighboring property owners. Katie, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, I think this one's fairly simple. We're fairly limited in what we can do with this piece of land. It's valuable, but it's only useful sort of to those neighboring properties. And A-Rock there is going to require some access down from 19th. So I'm confident to put this forward to negotiations that staff can have with the interested abutting landowners.
Ron, anything to add?
Only that I voted against this in the beginning, and now that I got defeated on that, I guess I can support what you're going with.
Anything else, Steve? Okay. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Okay, next report back to Karen for Argyle Street road closure in Embro.
Yes. So, Dawn, if you, yeah, just go to the visual. There we go. So that is the portion of the unopened road allowance that we are looking for council to declare as surplus to the municipality. I'll maybe let the question come that came.
Any questions for Karen? No questions? No comments? I'll read the motion. The council received report 2022-167 regarding Argyle Street unopened road closing and sale, and the council declared the unopened portion of Argyle Street south of John Street in Embro, PIN 00225-0230, as land surplus to the needs of the municipality, and the council directs staff to dispose of such lands utilizing a realtor, and that a purchase price be established in consultation with the township's realtor. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Steve, did you want to speak to that? And Katie?
Maybe just briefly. Just when we're looking at, in some ways, the last application and this one have a lot in common. In other ways, they have some things different. So this one here, it's really like, it's a beautiful little lot, and I think it's a really great opportunity for some infill, some development to happen. So I'm in support of the motion before us, as it allows for the maximum benefit to the municipality in the sale of this property. And it also, anyone can purchase that, where with the other one, because of the shape and positioning of it, it was really imperative that the sale then factor in sort of those neighboring properties. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Don?
One of the interesting things about this property, it is 66 feet wide, so the option would be there for a semi on the site. So it does make it a lot more marketable for more than just a single-family dwelling, if that's what someone's after.
Anything else? Steve?
Back to my first boo-boo, asking about the other one. Resident said he'd already issued or applied for a bid, but we're just authorizing it now. So does he need to be notified? Or?
That's correct. He and his lawyer were notified that we couldn't accept that yet, as council hadn't officially declared it as surplus.
Oh, okay. So as long as he knows.
Yep, he's aware.
Okay.
Yep, thanks.
That's it. I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. And one more from Karen. And that is to do with this building we're sitting in and this property it's located on, and the options as to how we want to proceed with the sale of this. So, Karen, anything you want to add with?
I don't think so. I think I'll leave it to council.
Any questions for Karen? Surprisingly, I have a couple. We did put in a value of this when we were calculating what would contribute to the ZMC project. Is that an appraised value? If we had an appraiser?
No, that was just in consultation with a local real estate agent. We did have the property valued, an estimated value was prepared by a realtor probably about 2 years ago, and I think at the time it was $795. So value's gone up. It may have dropped a little since we had the 1.2 valuation for the ZMC, but at least, by putting it back into real estate hands, it should give it some wider exposure. I've talked to 2 of the agents that we would likely circulate the RFQ to. They would like to get it listed sooner rather than later because of the uniqueness of the property and the potential for it, so it may take a little longer to sell than a single-family dwelling would.
Right. My second question is, we're looking at whether to go realtor or tender, which normally we tender. What are the costs? Like, realty is generally a percentage of the sale cost. How does that compare to a tendering cost as far as what work and outside documentation we need to do to prepare a tender?
Sure. So if we did go to tender, we would likely have the property appraised. The last one was about $4,400 for the Commissioner Street property in Embro. Real estate, our last time we used an agent was for the small lot in Thamesford across from Maple Leaf. And through the RFQ process, the lowest commission that we were charged was 3%. So if we're looking at $1 million, would be about $30,000 in commission.
And my last question is, we have used Realty before. Did we find that we got more bidders and potentially higher bids using the Realtor as opposed to the tendering process?
It's really hard to say because every time we sell property, they're all unique and different. I can think of the water tower property in Thamesford. That was a direct sale negotiation. We actually had one auction, the Banner School property, that was probably about 15 years ago. We've used real estate a couple of times. We've used the tender process more often than not, or sealed bid process. With this property, we just feel because of the uniqueness of it, and it may take a little longer to sell just because it's not a single-family residence, and some of the other properties similar to this have taken a little bit longer to sell, that we may be better off to use that method.
Thanks, John. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion we have is that council receive report 2022-166 regarding 274620 27th line municipal office surplus land, and that council declare 274620 27th line as land surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that council direct staff to dispose of such lands utilizing a realtor, and that a purchase price be established in consultation with the township's realtor, and that council directs offers not to be considered that proposes an institutional use for the property. I think I forgot to say who moved it. Moved by Councillor Gregg and seconded by Councillor Forbes. Katie, as the mover, do you want to speak to this motion?
Yes, so listening to Don's response about what's the best way to go forward with this, what's worked best in the past, it's difficult because they are all unique properties, and the timeline, I think, of the sale also has a huge impact on the result. This sale is a key piece for funding our next municipal office, so part of my focus is on optimizing what that financial benefit is going to be, because it is going to have a direct impact on how much it is that we're going to have to debenture for our ZMCCC build. Having said that, when we went through the rezoning process, or I guess the process is still going on, but when we looked at the zone change for this property, we were being mindful of the impact on the neighboring property, what would be an optimal use, and also when we're looking at the function of this space, there's the added benefit to the municipality beyond just whatever that sale price is. There's the added benefit of it potentially offering some employment opportunities for people in the municipality, as well as that great tax revenue generated through the commercial sector. So the piece at the end about not consideration of institutional use, that wasn't part of, we didn't change, we've already reflected that zone change, so there may be some miscommunication or misunderstandings about what could go on this property. But I think when we're working with real estate and we're having some offers come in, that it'd be important that those offers reflect a usage that we're going to see that aligns with how we have changed this zone, and that those benefits aren't just that sale price, but also those employment opportunities and then the future tax revenue for the municipality from this property.
Ron, you want to speak to it?
No, I'd just like to say that with it in real estate, I don't think we need to take the first offer. Like we got lots of time to sell this property, and if it doesn't happen, you always got other options down the road. It could be tendered sometime next year, even go back to an auction if you wanted to. Real estate should give us the biggest return on investment, but if it doesn't, look at other options before that.
Okay. Steve?
No, I like the idea of going with Realtor. I, my past experience in the trades years ago, developers, big corporations might tend to look more at sealed bids and tenders, but small companies, smaller groups, individuals who'd be looking to start it. We've seen the long list of potential usages for this place, and I think we'll get a bigger flag out there for getting rid of it if we go through real estate.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is the financially, the missing piece in financing the ZMC. The other properties that have gone towards that financing and the other sources other than how much we need to debenture are known at this point. The value of this contribution is unknown, and it's not like we're just selling this property and going to put the money into reserves. We have a confirmed use for the money that comes out of this property, and it's all part of this plan that we've developed to move municipal offices. So I think it's important that we maximize the potential return on this, and if staff feels that going with the Realtor is the way to go, and as Ron said, it does leave us with options if we're not happy with the bids that we get through. So do you want me to read it again or just call the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? That is carried. Okay, that takes care of the 3 reports. Move on to correspondence requiring direction. There's one item there. We have a motion, it's a support motion for correspondence received from Lucan Badolf regarding Strong Mayor's Building Homes Act. And I'll read the motion that's been prepared and open it up for discussion. Moved by Councillor Gregg, second by Councillor Forbes. The Township of Zorra supports the Town of Kingsville Resolution number 336-0829-2022 in opposition to Bill 3 Strong Mayor's Building Homes Act 2022 for the reasons noted in the Kingsville Resolution, and that a copy of this resolution and the Kingsville Resolution be sent to Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Ernie Hardeman, MPP for the riding of Oxford, Amo, and Roma. Katie, as the mover, would like to speak to this. Ron, would you like to speak to it?
Just full support of that resolution.
Steve, do you have any comments? Okay. I actually drafted this motion, but since I was moved into the chair procedurally, Katie moved it, but the reason that I worded the way it was that although the correspondence came from Lucan Badolf, their motion was in support of the Kingsville motion, and I felt that it made sense to go back and identify the Kingsville motion as what we were supporting, cut through a couple of layers, and because I thought the Kingsville motion was very well worded and certainly identified the issues that I think that are important in the discussions on this topic. So what I did was I looked up the bill. It's actually 16 pages long, but it's only 8 pages of changes to the City of Toronto Act, which the City of Toronto has their own specific act, and 8 pages of changes to the Municipal Act, because Doug Ford threw in the City of Ottawa in this, which is under the Municipal Act, which is the same as Zorra Township. So I printed it off, and I came up with some of the changes that are involved here, and we can go through and play a little game of who's going to lose influence and power when this power all gets shifted to the head of council. So these are some of the things that the head of council will be responsible for that he or she doesn't have at this time. Head of council may appoint a chief administrative officer who shall be responsible for exercise of general control and management of the affairs of the city and performing such other duties as assigned by the head of council. And note when I go through these where it's head of council and not council anymore. Powers of the municipality with respect to determining the organizational structure of the city are assigned to the head of council. So potentially the council, the mayor could change the ward system. The power to hire, dismiss, or exercise any other prescribed employment powers with respect to the head of any division or the head of any part of the organizational structure. With some exceptions, and the exceptions are the clerk or deputy clerk, treasurer or deputy treasurer, integrity commissioner, a chief building official, and a fire chief. And Karen may correct me, but I think that's because those positions are all governed by other legislation other than the Municipal Act. So that's why they're not included in this hiring and firing power. Next section, the head of council may exercise a power with respect to persons regardless of when that person started their employment. So when a new mayor comes in and he wants to clean house, he has the power to do it without having to go through council. The power to appoint the chairs and vice chairs of local boards is assigned to head of council. Powers are assigned to the heads of council to establish or dissolve committees, to appoint the chairs and vice chairs of committees, and the power to assign functions in committees. So basically the mayor would have full control over who sat on committees and boards and what they did. Veto powers. So the mayor can veto this act and this application of veto powers by the mayor, this act and the regulations, the Planning Act and its regulations, and that's where Doug Ford is hiding behind this, that the reason he needs strong mayors is so that they can override planning decisions and get housing building. Any other prescribed act or regulation, so basically any legislation the mayor has control over. If the head of council is of the opinion that all or part of a bylaw that is subject to this section would potentially interfere with a prescribed provincial priority, the head of council may provide written notice to city council of the intent to consider vetoing the bylaw. The veto can be ruled by council if 2/3 of the members of council vote to override the veto. But during that vote, the mayor gets a vote whether to override or not. Powers and duties with the budget. With respect to proposing and adopting a budget are assigned to the head of council. The head of council will prepare a proposed budget for the municipality and provide the proposed budget to city council, to municipal council for council's consideration. After receiving the proposed budget, council may pass a resolution making amendment to the proposed budget. The head of council may veto a resolution passed under this subsection. So if he doesn't like what the amendments to the budget are, he can veto it. Council may override the head of council's veto under subsection if 2/3 of the members of council vote to override the veto. So, but there again, the mayor gets to vote on that as well. So that just gives you, I had not looked at it before, but that gives you some idea of the massive changes taking power away from council. Like, what's the point of being in council if all the work that councilors do to address issues and the council decides on something, if the mayor can override it. It also reduces the power of the CAO, the director of finance, all the department heads, and the boards and committees. My opinion, this is Doug Ford's long-term fight with the council of the City of Toronto after the 2018 election, where downsizing council of Toronto was not an issue. He cut it from 48 to 25 wards in the middle of the election, and now once again there was no talk that I remember at this most recent election about strong mayors, and he came in a couple months later with this new legislation under the guise that it's needed to get houses built. And it's all about Toronto. He included Ottawa, because it's the only other city in Ontario of more than 1 million people. But by including Ottawa, he opens it up to, it will be pretty easy legislation to filter down to Hamilton, London, Kitchener-Waterloo, and eventually Woodstock and Zorra. So I think that this is not good for democracy. I think it would discourage people from participating. If you have a good mayor that respects democracy, I think there's not a lot of danger to it, but the potential for somebody to get in there and run the municipality the way they want it, and we've seen in other municipalities people coming in saying, I'm going to clean house. I think it's bad for governance, and I think it's bad for staff council relationship, and it would be tough to keep good people in that type of environment. So that's why I brought the way I drafted the motion the way I did, and I'm glad that Katie and Ron brought it forward. So if there's no other comments, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I think we need to send a message. Okay, that to item 10, boards and committees. We just have a report from Multi-Use Course Committee. Katie, you're on that committee. Did you want to add anything to that report? Moved by Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Gregg, that item 10A be received and filed for information purposes only. All in favor? That is carried. Next on the agenda, information items. We have two. One correspondence from the Solicitor General, response to the delegation at AMO that Marcus made, the issue of his excessive protective elements. This is an issue we dealt with a few months ago. The other one is from the Solicitor General, continuing the changes to the boards. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? Katie?
Just a quick question for staff. Are we able to relay the correspondence from the delegation from 11A to the resident who brought the concern forward initially, just for, I know there's not really much of an update, but I think it's important that the resident know that this is where it's at in the stage and that there could be more to come?
For sure, we'll make sure that happens.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'll call the motion. Moved by Councilor Gregg, seconded by Councilor McDonald, that items 11A and B be received and filed for information purposes only. All in favor? That takes care of information items. It moves us directly to bylaws. And two bylaws there, moved by Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Forbes. The bylaws 67-22 and 68-22 be taken as read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. And further, that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto. Any comments? All in favor? That's carried. And we're all the way to items of community interest. There is one item of interest, especially the people back there, and that's the election next Monday. Karen, you've been running it, and anything to report on?
It's been going well. We're at over 10% voter turnout at this point, which sounds low, but I do think it's really positive. So, and we will be hosting between 8 and 8:30-ish on Monday night. We'll reveal the numbers when they become available here in the council chambers for anyone wanting to attend. So, yeah, just keep making sure people are voting.
Okay. Steve?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And sorry,
Mhm.
we have our last voter session this Saturday at the BD room in the Townsford Library for anyone who wants to come out and vote or needs help with their voter identification letter, needs to get added to the list, anything. We held one last Saturday in Embro, had a few people out, so we'll be doing the same thing this Saturday. Thanks, Alicia.
Steve, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I have heard nothing but compliments on the online stuff, like dozens. And the usual comment what goes along with them is, we should have been doing this years ago. This is so simple, and I don't have to drive.
Ron?
Just a question, has there been many people come in and vote on our terminal here?
Yeah, we have. I don't have an exact number right now, but I would say probably half a dozen, 6 to 10 people a day. Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
And another, yes, Ron?
That leads me to another question.
Yep.
Is that terminal open on the weekend?
So, on Saturday at the BD room from 10 till 1, we have that terminal set up at the BD room. Right. Yep. Yeah.
Anything else? The only thing I have is Upper Thames Board meeting is next Wednesday. Instead of Tuesday, we normally meet on Tuesdays, but a number of the members of the board are up for election, including the chair and the vice chair. And the decision was that they might be too tired to have a meeting the next morning, so we moved it back a day. If there's nothing else, I'll read, moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that bylaw 69-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held October 19th, 2022, be read a first and second and third time this October 19th, 2022, and further that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix a corporate seal thereto. All in favor? And the last one, that moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that this session of council be now adjourned and hereby closed at 6:33 p.m. And the next meeting of council will be called for November the 2nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the council chambers at the Township Municipal Office. All in favor?